Hello YouTube, it's Barbara G. I'm back. Okay, so I'm glad I splitting this video. Maybe I might have to do that in the future just to make it easier for everybody, because sometimes I have so much to say and then I end up with these huge long videos, but then that's the way I talk. It takes me a while to get things out. So anyway, I was talking to you about feet. I've been talking to you about feet for a long, long time, about how feet represent the gospel of peace, and how Christ is a solid rock in which we stand. Okay, so I'm having problems with my feet because think about it, people. The church isn't standing on the rock. We are not unified. We're not one body. We're in schisms, and we are house divided. And so, what Christ is doing is strengthening us through the rock on which we are standing with our feet, which is we're standing on holy ground. He's healing us through our feet. Think about it. That's what happened with Moses. He was standing on the rock. He was standing on holy ground. God told him to take off his shoes. It was something that when I was a kid, and even when I was a child, I used to wonder, why is he telling him to take off his shoes? What is the significance? Even as a child, I used to think these things. Why is he telling him to take off his shoes? And it wasn't until, like I said, that a few years ago, several years ago, the Lord started to show me. And like I said, I don't remember where I got this chart, but this has been a godsend. I'm looking at this chart. This is amazing. And it's only in the last couple of years I really started really looking at it. I just picked it up somewhere and I thought it was curious and interesting, but I never really looked at it until a couple of years ago. But anyway, and I started to understand now, of course, it makes more sense that God healed Moses through his feet because he would not have been able to stand before Pharaoh and do the things he didn't say, the things he did, unless he had been healed and strengthened by standing on what? On holy ground, standing on the rock. Where was he? He was standing on Mount Sinai. The rock. The rock which is going to bring down the kingdom of Egypt is the rock that Moses was standing on. And Jesus Christ is our rock. He is the solid rock in which we stand. He's also the stumbling block. He's also for those who can't believe that he's the Son of God. The foundation of our faith, the foundation, which is the rock, is the confession that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He is the only born Son of the living God. That's what the confession of faith that Peter, whose name is Rock, Jesus changed his name from Simon to Peter, which means the rock. And the confession that Peter made was that Jesus Christ is the only born Son of God, the Son of the living God. And that is the rock in which we stand. And that's the rock in which we've all been pretty shaky about. We have found all kinds of reasons and excuses to try to change the ideology of how Jesus could be God's son with all kinds of theologies and blah, 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 that they absolutely don't make any sense because of the enmity for the woman, because the fear of the sexual identity of God and our own sexual identity because of the Nephilim influence or the Antichrist spirit that has been in each one of us because of that fall of Adam and Eve in the garden. Now, that's where I kind of want to go there, but I want you to stay with me because I have a series of events. First, I want to go through what happened to me in the last couple of weeks since I made that video about HC, who had mutilated in my dream. I don't know if you got the dream because, like I said, it was marked private against my will, about this dream that I had about HC and how there were three witnesses. There was me, my mother, my dreams, my mother always represents the Holy Spirit, and my aunt, my mother's sister. And her name is Beverly. And Beverly means beaver meadow. Now, like I said, I don't have to explain anything, okay? So I'm just going to tell you, that's her name. Her name is Beverly. She died a couple of years ago now, not too long, a couple of years after my mother, a year or two after my mother did. She passed. My mother's sister, her only sibling. And her name is Beverly, and her name means beaver meadow. And I told you in my other dreams, if you managed to get it, because it was marked private, about how a beaver meadow, if you think about what beavers do, they dam things up. They find a flow of water, and then they dam up the works. Okay? And in this dream, HC, we were in this room with HC, my mother, my aunt, and myself, and HC took down her pants. She was wearing a pair of pants, and she showed us her private parts. and she was cackling the whole time. And there she was, but what we were there to witness was how she managed to get so evil was that she dammed up. She was stapled. It was like she was stitched up, but it was like looked more like staples. They were so um, uh, like in modern day stitching, they don't use actually thread, they use staples to stitch people up. Well, this is what she did. In this dream, in the spiritual realm, she had stapled herself together, or something in the spirit realm stapled her. So completely disfigured her natural body, disfigured her, the flow of, of her humanity, of the flow of um, her femininity, enmity, her own enmity for herself as being a woman. And so this is what the Lord was showing me in this dream. And also, I was thinking about how um, maybe we should be praying. Just the reason I was thinking this today, I was thinking maybe we should be praying that God rips those staples off. Breaks down the beaver dam. You know what I'm saying? Okay, it's interesting. The Lord gives us interesting images, and this is what the Lord gave me. This is the Lord gave me this image, and maybe we should be praying against, for HC, that God would break the dam. Think about that. Interesting, huh? Maybe we should be praying. That's our mode of operation, that God would break the dam, and then once she's broken down, once that dam is broken, perhaps it will all come flooding out. Maybe it all come, everything that she has done and everything that she has, um, all the evil that she's been participating. Well, maybe it'll all just come flooding out of her. You never know. Maybe that's the motive. Maybe that's what we need to be doing. We need to be praying for God to break the dam around HC, the spiritual stronghold that has keeping this HC in so much power. Break her power by breaking the dam. Oh, mind meld, mind meld. I'm having a break. I'm having a breakthrough. I'm having the light go off in my head. Okay. So, anyway, let me go back to what I was going to talk about. To what the events have since I had that dream, and then I did the videos about sexuality, God and sexuality, and how we've all played with the idea of how God could have a son, and we've messed with our minds and everybody else's minds with these strange philosophies and ideologies that are completely unbiblical. Anyway, I had to write it down, which is something I normally don't do. The order of things that had happened in the last couple of weeks, just so I didn't get them out of order, so then I would have to go back and try to explain it. Um, so first, I had the dream about my mother, myself, my aunt Beverly, and witnessing HC and how she had managed to dam up or become as powerful as she did in the spirit realm. Second thing that happened, and I just told you about this. I did the videos about God and sexuality, and then I loosed and bind the truth about, I bound the Antichrist spirit. There was this lying spirit that had us all blinded to the fact that sex and sexuality is part of who God is and who we are, and it's eternal. Okay, and then so that's the second thing I did. Now the third thing that happened was the next week. This week past, earlier last week I had another dream, and in this dream I was, which brings me back to what happened just in my last video when I was talking about Nebuchadnezzar, which I'm going to tie to in a second. So early last week, I had a dream, and in this dream, I had basically it was two dreams, but they kind of tied together. The first part of the dream, I was in Germany, like 1945, 40s Germany, and I was behind the enemy lines in Germany, Nazi Germany, and I was uh, like a spy. I was like a spy in this country, a spy, or I don't know if I was a spy or I was just trying to escape. Excuse me. Excuse me. I don't know why all of a sudden I had to sneeze, but there it is. I was a spy in Nazi Germany, so I was trying to escape, and I was doing all kinds of maneuvers, and I don't remember exactly all the details about the dream, but all I remember is that I was in Nazi Germany and I was attempting to escape. and there were guards and trying to keep me from getting into the homeland or to like Switzerland, to go over the border to the country that I knew I would be safe in. And they were trying to stop me. And like I said, I don't remember all the details. I can still see images of it, but I don't remember all the details. But I did eventually escape. I was able to cross over into the homeland or to the land that I knew I would be safe in from, from the enemy. And so anyway, the next part of the dream, this is what happened next. In the next part of the dream, I was in a hospital. Suddenly I found myself in a hospital and they were going to do surgery on me. Oh, no, wait, it happened. I crossed over into the homeland, and then I started developing a rash on my arms. On both arms, I had a rash, and it was a very, very severe rash on my arms. And I was in a hospital, and I was being wheeled in to surgery to have this rash taken care of that was on my arms. And then all of a sudden, it was like I zoomed in on my arms onto the rash. I was like I was looking at my arm, and all of a sudden, it was like I was zooming in. You know how it is, on television, how they zoom in, like in, of course, computer animated or computer generated images of how you zoom in really, 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 really microscopically close to something. You're far away, and all of a sudden, you're right there, and you can see the little atoms in your hand or something. Well, this is what happened. I was suddenly looking at my arm, and I could see that I had these rashes, severe rashes on my arm. And as I was looking down at my arm, they were like little bubbles, and I was like zoomed in so close. The bubbles on my arms, the rash on my arms, looked like water droplets, and they were transparent. And I was able to look inside these droplets of this rash, and they look like sparkle. They look like silver sparkles. Um, um, Silver sparkles. Like when you're a kid and you used to play with that stuff, or some people still do. You put glue on a page and then you sprinkle it with sparkle dust. Well, that's what I was equating to. Each one of these little bubbles were transparent, and I was able to see that they had all the sparkle dust, the silver sparkle dust in it, and it was like all oozing out of my skin of my arm. Which brings me back to the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, because I didn't know, because I was asking the Lord, what did that mean? What did the silvery sparkles on my arm mean? Because I didn't know until just when I made this last video. Suddenly I was reading about Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and all of a sudden, silver arms. His arms and his torso, his breast and his arms were made of silver. And what was coming out of my skin in this dream? Silver dust. Isn't that amazing? That's amazing. God, it's amazing. So, anyway, I was being wheeled into surgery to have all this removed, to have all this silver dust stuff that was causing and giving me a rash off my arms. That was the end of the dream. So that was the next thing that happened. So I kind of had this dream, and the silver dust, the silver sparkle stuff was coming out of my arms. So I started thinking about it. What did that mean? And so I knew it was something to do with the Nephilim. It had something to do with the fallen angel theologies and um, Antichrist spirit. It had to do with the bride being cleansed of this spirit that has been inside the church that had to be removed, and God was taking us into surgery to remove it. I knew that. Okay, so the next thing that happened was I had um, the pain in my foot. Oh, no, no. Okay. I'm getting this a little mixed up. Yeah. So I had the dream a week after I did the video about God and sexuality. Then I had this dream about the sparkle dust being removed. Then I had this pain in my foot I was telling you about in my last video. It felt like I was walking on a rock in my left foot, right in this area, right here. It felt like I was walking on a rock. And this rock was very, very painful. And it's been like that for several months. But it only was increasing in pain. And I said, my sister came down uh, uh, about Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday. It was after I had this dream. Um, Wednesday, the pain in my foot was getting worse. It was so painful. I could barely stand. I could barely walk. I was almost falling from walking on this, from this pain, this little, kind of, like I said, it felt like a rock in my foot, a little pebble in my foot. And so I was really discouraged. I was really feeling quite discouraged, thinking, what is going on, Lord? You know, every time I turn around, something else happens. Another pain, another area of concern. Why am I going through all this? I was starting to get quite depressed by the whole situation. Okay, because this has been going on, and I've been praying, and Lord, what's going on, and no revelation until this moment. So Wednesday, I told my sister, whose name, by the way, is also Beverly. Coincidence? I don't think so. She was named after my aunt. She's my twin sister. My twin sister came down, whose name is Beverly, came down, and I told her, I said, Bev, you know, I'm having a real problem with my foot. I'm this, I, I'm really getting quite discouraged by it. I don't know what to do. You know, I prayed and it just doesn't seem to get healed every time I turn around. She says, well, let me pray for you. So she prayed, dear Lord, you know, heal this pain in my sister's foot. It's better. Okay. So the next day, I'm even more depressed because the pain's still there. Oh, it's never going to go away. Oh, I'm complaining and all kinds of things to the Lord. Then what happened next was, let's see if I wrote it down. Wednesday, the day that my sister came down and prayed for me, which was Wednesday, this last Wednesday. And I decided I was going to fast. I fasted that day, and I decided I was going to fast from sugary things, and you know, because I like a lot of sugar in my coffee, and I don't eat a lot of cake and cookie. I mean, I mean, I really like them, but I don't. But I just said, you know, I'm just going to stay away from sugary things right now, and I'm only going to eat one meal a day. And so I fasted Wednesday, and I fasted Thursday, and I've been fasting for just on one meal a day for the last few days. But nonetheless, on Wednesday I fasted, and then on Thursday I fasted. And by Thursday, I was really, really depressed. Like I said, this is after my sister prayed for me on Thursday, and I had to walk the dog. And of course, it was very discouraging to walk my dog, and has been, because it's so painful. So I was down at the park, and that's when the floodgate, the dam broke, if you will. The dam broke. I was at the park. I was sitting there, and I just wept bitterly, bitterly, just like, oh, I don't understand. And all this bitter spirit came out of me about being barren, not having any children, and how it doesn't seem fair. All this stuff came flooding out of me. I sat there for, I think I was there for almost 2 hours, just crying my heart out, crying. I give up. I'm never doing this again. I'm never making another video. That's it. All this stuff is coming out. so, so anyway, after I had a really, really, really good cry and told the Lord how I felt and how I thought it was unfair and all the rest of it, excuse me, I came home. I was actually feeling better by then. I was starting to feel a lot better by then. And then Thursday night, so that was Thursday evening, Friday, my foot began to feel better. I wasn't in nearly so much pain in my left foot. My left foot wasn't nearly so painful. By Saturday, there was hardly any pain, and now Monday morning, and although I still have a little pain in my left foot, considering to where it was before, it's hardly any pain at all. The pain is almost gone, okay? This is fascinating to me. Like, this is amazing. God, it works in such mysterious ways. So the pain in my foot is almost gone in my left foot, that it had been such trouble for me in the last few months, and it was becoming increasingly problematic. But when I made the video about God and sexuality and the sexual nature of eternity, that we are sexual beings, and we will be sexual beings forever, unless of course unless you're oil and you're a virgin, and you will be like the angels, or you will neither marry or given in marriage. When I made that video, that was the dam that broke. That broke the dam. Okay? That broke the beaver dam. Okay? And interestingly enough, I just want to keep going. So my foot has been increasingly improving. Then I started thinking about Daniel and the two kingdoms, That's when the thoughts about Daniel's two kingdoms and how different they are. Daniel's Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom started with the head, okay, and it's sitting on a foundation of a divided people, divided, murky, um, not strong, and then but God's kingdom is started at the bottom and worked its way up to the top to its glory. We're working our way up. We started at the bottom, which was firm foundations, which is Christ, and God is building His church from glory to glory to glory. So He started at the bottom with humility and humbleness and meekness, and He's working His way to His final glory. So He ends at the head, whereas Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom ends at the feet. God brings down the kingdom with a rock of Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, the Babylonian kingdom, with a rock that's not made with hands, that comes down and hits the feet of Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom. And it brings it down like and it's blown away like chaff on a threshing floor. The wheat, the church of Philadelphia, the synagogue of Satan is defeated by the church of Philadelphia, brotherhood. Philadelphia means brotherhood, unity, oneness with God. It is the church that's talking about the temple, and the temple is built on the threshing floor. We are the wheat. Isn't it all coming together now for you? This is amazing. So I said, okay, this is really, really cool, Lord. So I'm thinking about Nebuchadnezzar and how God is going to bring down, and it's the stumbling block of the kingdom of Satan is reproduction. And what do we have a problem with? Abortion, people. Satan wants to devour our children. Satan wants to kill us. Satan hates the human race. Satan hates God, and Satan hates the human race because we're created in the image of God to be reproductive. Whereas angels are told they are they were forbidden to marry. And God had a good reason for it. Now we know why. Because this is what happens when angel DNA gets mixed up with humanity. It screws us all up. Everything gets screwed up because they are of the spirit of Hagar, which is from Galatians 4. They're under the bondage of law, and that's the way. If they fall, there is no redemption for them. But for humanity, there is, because we are capable, because we were born in the first place. We can be reborn. Okay, the stumbling block that the Jews have, and also for the Greek, the Jew and the Gentile, both, the stumbling block is the process of reproduction, sexuality, and sex. It is the stumbling block for salvation. It is the foundation on which we stand for our salvation, that Jesus Christ is the only born Son of the living God, which Jesus said his confession was the rock or the foundation of our salvation. I was having a problem with my foot and couldn't hardly walk. In fact, could hardly stand because of this pain that was in my foot. It was my stumbling block. It's the stumbling block of the church, is reproduction, sexuality, and reproduction. That is the stumbling block. Jesus was aggravating it and aggravating it and aggravating it and aggravating it till I couldn't hold it anymore. And in order to be healed, I had to get out the bitterness that was the stumbling block. My stumbling block, your stumbling block, our stumbling block is that rock that's in our foot can keep the pain of walking and spreading the good news and the gospel of Jesus Christ. You got pain in your feet, people? You're not going anywhere. Believe me, I know. I've been sitting here for not 10 years, but about 8 years I've been sitting in this chair in pain because I can't walk on my feet. You can't go anywhere if your feet hurt. And yet that rock is what brings down the kingdom of Satan. It's their stumbling block, and God divides and brings down, hits them in their weakest spot. He hits them in the feet. Now, I was thinking, then I started thinking about Satan and what brings down the kingdom of Satan. Well, Revelation chapter 12. Shall we just go there to Revelation chapter 12, shall we? Let's go to Revelation chapter 12. The woman and the dragon. Verse 1, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And he drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, to be devoured, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, where she should feed her there 1,203 days. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast upon the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And it says, now has come. Just keep reading the next verse. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of their brethren is cast down, which accused them before God day and night. What defeats the kingdom of Satan? Childbirth. Childbirth, and this perfect child is the defeat of Satan. And it's not the first time. It is not the first time. It will not. It is how God has always defeated Satan, through childbirth, through reproduction. Reproduction is how God defeats the synagogue of Satan, how he defeats the dragon, how he has gains his power. He has more and more power and more power. He's glorified and glorified and glorified, and brings down the synagogue of Satan and Satan himself through childbirth. Reproduction is the key. It is the stumbling block that has screwed us up. But once we get straight in our minds and straight in our hearts, and that stone is no longer a stumbling block for our feet, guess what? We'll be victorious. That's how we bring down the devil. It's through our reproduction, our sexuality. It is the stumbling block that Satan cannot get over, because God told him he wasn't allowed to reproduce. So what is Satan trying to do here? A woman in heaven gives birth. A woman in heaven gives birth. He tries to devour the child, just like he's devouring our children down here. For his strength, to keep up his strength, the spirit of Baal, what is he doing? He's devouring our children. And he's trying to devour this child, but he's not allowed to, because this child is made perfect. This child is a perfect child. It is the beginning of it's part of our salvation plan. It's part of the salvation plan for mankind. And it always has been. There's always, when Adam and Eve, the beginning of salvation, having a child. The beginning of their salvation wasn't, once they left the garden and once they were kicked out, their salvation came through reproduction. Enmity for the woman, that's Satan. He hates the woman. Why? Because she's reproduced. She's bringing forth more children. And through that lineage, through the all of us came from Adam and Eve reproducing. And of course, Satan hates it. He's trying to kill us off. What do you think the chemtrails are about? What do you think that the poisoning our food and our water supply and our children with drugs? What do you think this is all about? He's trying to kill us because he hates us so very much, because we are created in the image of God, male and female. So what is he doing? He's changing the genders to 70 different kinds of genders. Well, of course, that's ridiculous. There's still only 2. No matter what he's trying to do, there's still only 2. Because if we're going to be born either male or female. That's just the bottom line. But Satan's trying, there's dog man, and there's the camel woman, and there's fish girl. Satan's out of his mind, and so are those who believe his lies. Okay? We are created in the image of God, male and female, reproductive. Okay? So this is the stumbling block that we all have to get over. Now, when I looked at this chart, I can bring it back to this chart. This is so fascinating to me. So I was looking at it again, and that spot that I was showing you right here. You wouldn't believe what it says. It's the spot that it's pointed to. It says the cervix. The cervix. Also, the blue part is actually the knees, which I'm also having problems with. Both my knees, they're not functioning quite well, but the Lord is working on those. But this spot right here, that felt like I was walking on a rock right here. And the word here is cervix. Cervix, of course, is part of a woman's anatomy that allows a woman to hold a baby. The cervix, if the cervix isn't strong, you can get pregnant, but you can't retain a pregnancy if the cervix is weak. Okay, it's part of a woman's reproductive part. It's part of reproduction of mankind. But if the woman's cervix is weak, many women have hard time, and they have to. Some people, I don't know what they do. There's all kinds of things that they do to try to strengthen the cervix in order to keep a woman from miscarrying her child. So in this spot, he's showing me this is the part that I was having so much problem. It felt like I was walking on a rock. He was strengthening the cervix. He first has to, that's what the Lord, with this brain surgery I'm telling you about, he's like aggravating, and it's like so painful and irritating. But what he's doing, he's aggravating the nerves that need to be healed. He's aggravating the parts in his body, his bride, his church, that need to be healed. Ideologies that are wrong, doctrines that are false, lies and deceptions that have kept us from seeing the truth so that we can walk and carry the gospel and actually do the job we were supposed to. How can we walk if we're walking on sore feet? If we got bitterness, if we're still encrusted with angel DNA. And that's what the Lord was showing me with the silver arms. And like I said, I didn't even put the two together until I had just read that verse about Nebuchadnezzar, and he had the silver arms, because I'm thinking, why my arms? Why was this rash on my arms? I don't understand why I had this rash and what it was coming from and what it was all about. And like I said, when I zoomed in and I saw these little silver sparkles, and it wasn't until my last video when I was talking about Nebuchadnezzar, and he had the breast of silver and arms of silver. And the Lord was telling me he was removing more of Babylon, was coming out of us, because the truth was starting to set us free. And that truth, that stumbling block, that rock that we were having a hard time with, is Christ Jesus himself. He is our rock. And he doesn't want his church stumbling on the rock. He is the cornerstone. He is the one in which, he's the foundation in which we stand. And if we can't stand, then how are we to defeat the synagogue of Satan if we can't even get this right? If we can't get our theology right, we are going to be constantly the accuser. How do we bring down the accuser of the brethren? With the truth. I mean, the devil. How do we bring down the devil? With the truth. The truth sets us free. The Lord was setting me free. He's setting you free. He's setting his church free from the lies and deceptions of the Antichrist spirit that has inhabited his church. And he's making us whole. He's healing our feet. He's healing our whole body through our feet. Isn't that amazing? That's amazing. Wow. I'm so excited by what the Lord has shown me. So, I think that's all. So God is bringing down the house, people. He's bringing down Satan's house by setting his church free with the truth about what Satan has been up to and how he's lied to us and how he's lied about eternal life and what it's all about. Like I said, he's lied to us about thinking that heaven is just about sitting on clouds and playing harps and kind of like, oh, 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 spaced out, oh, playing harps. That's not what eternity is about. What Christ said, you have houses and lands and wives and children and husbands and families, and all the things that you enjoy down here will be up there, but only better. You eat, you drink. He said, I'm not going to drink the cup of the wine, the fruit of the vine, until I drink it with you in my Father's house. Isn't that what he said? Yeah, he did. When he rose from the dead, what did he do? He asked them to make them a meal. So we will be eating and drinking and laughing and having fun and having houses and properties and doing everything that we would do down here, but only up there. It'll be better, perfect, and more wonderful. There will be no evil. There will be nobody trying to steal your things, steal, kill, or destroy. There's no wars and rumors of wars up in heaven. Everything will be perfect. But everything you think that's what Satan has done. He's lied to us, saying, you better get your gravy down here, and because if you're thinking about heaven, well, there ain't nothing up there. You'll have more fun in hell. You'll have more fun in hell. This is the lie he's told people. You'll have more fun in hell. So prepare for hell. Hell is where you need to go, because it's a big party down there. Wrong. No parties in hell, people. So anyway, I think you might probably thought this was probably very interesting. I thought it was very interesting, and I'm very, very excited. I'm very, very happy because the Lord has healed something that's been really, really aggravating to me for the last, like I said, last few months. I've been really struggling with this. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I was trying to ignore it. Oh, it's going to get better. But nothing seemed to work. And so finally, I asked my sister, please pray about my foot. Her name is Beverly. I tell you not. The Lord is mysterious, and he's got a sense of humor too. He's got a sense of humor. God is he's not we give him this one-dimensional characteristic, and that's Satan, of course, too, who makes our God so flat. I'm God. Do what I say, or I will destroy you. That's what I used to think when I was growing up. I used to think God was all judgment, but and kind of pragmatic and withdrawn from us. But he's so not. He's got so much personality, and he's funny, and he's good, and he's loving, and he's interesting, and he shows us interesting things that we had no idea that we were even interested in until he actually shows it to us. So anyway, I think this is exciting. So we have made another step in the right direction. I don't know what to call this video, Standing on the Rock Part 2, or one small step for mankind, a giant leap for one small step for man, and a giant leap for for humankind, or or breaking the dam. I don't know. Something, I don't know what, but uh, this is just fascinating to me. The Lord is healing us, and that, like I said, the woman in heaven, it has so many applications. You're gonna say, well, I believe it's the bride of Christ. But not only do I believe it's the bride of Christ, I also believe it's the Holy Spirit. I also believe it's Jesus Christ. I believe, it was Abraham. It has so many applications, because each time you look at it over and over again, when a baby is born, a stronghold of Satan comes down. The house gets weaker. That's what each one of these dispensations of Nebuchadnezzar and his statue starts out gloriously and gold and beautiful. And it's interesting. I'm thinking to myself, oh, I might as well mention this now too, I was thinking about the book of Revelation, and of course the Laodicean church, which is the crown of Christ's kingdom. The Laodicean church is the crown, and it's, of course, crowns are made of gold. Think about that for a second. And the crowns are made of gold, and on top of which the Church of Laodicea is all about money. And this is how the last church has to decide whether they love money more than they love God and take the mark of the beast or not. And it's about finance, it's about money, it's about gold, it's about being rich, according to rich or dead. That's basically your choice that you're going to have to make in the Laodicean church. So it's interesting that Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the kingdom of Babylon, starts out with this glorious golden head and ends up with these feet of clay. Okay? And whereas God's kingdom starts in the base with the feet and then ends up going up gloriously and ends up with a crown. So God does things opposite. Satan always does things opposite. And this is what's happening. The cream's rising to the top. The mud's slinking to the bottom, the slime on the bottom, and Satan, that's where Jesus is going to hit his rock. The rock of our foundation, the stumbling block, is going to hit Satan's kingdom, and it's going to go all tumbling down, and it's going to be blown away like chaff on a threshing floor. So cool. So cool. God is cool. I'm excited. I'm starting to find my joy, which was another thing. I wanted to tell you that I was thinking about how the joy of the Lord is our strength. And as this process was happening, I was becoming more and more bitter in the last year or so, last two years, I was getting really discouraged. I was thinking, why is this going on so long? Why am I having so much problem? Why is this taking so long, God? And I was becoming less and less joyful and more bitter. And this was the process of God removing the stuff that's inside his church. He puts pressure on us. I've told you this before. The very thing that Satan puts pressure on us with, accuses us of, he puts pressure on us, but God uses that pressure to set us free. Because eventually either we break or we break. You know what I'm saying? We either break under Satan or we break under God. And God is trying to break us from Satan's power by setting us the truth, and it puts pressure on Satan. He allows Satan to put the pressure on us and put the pressure on us and put the pressure on us until finally we turn to God and cry out to him, and he sets us free. So he's breaking Satan's yoke off of us with these lies and deceptions, but he's also breaking us from receiving those lies and deceptions so that we can be set free, and so that we are no longer deceived by Satan and his lies. You have to be able to confront the lies in which you believe. Just recently, I had I'm not going to go into names, but one of my cousins was here, and we were trying to talk to her a little bit about some of the deceptions of the New World Order, and she couldn't take it. She was getting so agitated. She was so upset in hearing this because her mind was still controlled by the lies and deceptions. And so, but in order to break free, you have to hear the truth. And it is agitating. It's irritating. It's frightening. It's irritating because your soul, when you've been given a lie and you've thought it was the truth for so long, it feels like your whole world is crumbling right underneath your feet. And basically that's what's happening. That's Satan's kingdom crumbling. And it's frightening to the soul because you think you're standing on a solid rock and you realize it's shaky sand that you've been standing on all along. You got to find a new foundation. And if you don't have a foundation to stand on, where do you go? Right? But for us Christians, when we're shaken, and God's going to shake us. He's shaking his church people. He's shaking us. He's tribulating us. But what's coming down, we're still on a threshing floor. A threshing floor is a hard rock. That's what the temple is built on. It's built on a rock. And so when the chaff is blown away, the grain falls to the ground. It falls back to the rock and it's gathered up, whereas the chaff blows away. Okay, so we're all being tribulated, and this is what this pressure that Satan puts on us is about. And we're breaking free. We're every day we see victories, and Satan keeps trying hard because that's what he does. You think about I was thinking about, like in Moses, I was thinking about again Pharaoh's kingdom, and when he was trying to set the people free, and he kept coming to them and saying, set my people free. They say, of course, Satan would harden the heart of Pharaoh and the Egyptian people, so they're not doing it. And God would bring another tribulation on them and bring them another plague, another problem that they didn't know how to deal with. And okay, we're going to set you free. And then they'd harden their hearts. We're not setting you free. Well, this is exactly what's happening. We know we're in the last days because the people of God are on the verge of being set free from the lies and deceptions of the synagogue of Satan, from the Babylonian spirit. We are being set free. And you see the Babylonian spirit trying real hard, saying, no, we're not going to set you free. We're going to hold it. And they're grasping at any little straw they can hold on to try to keep it together. But the truth is, they're a stumbling block, and they're going to fall. Every last bit is going to fall. And the Lord was showing me that I think we're there. I think we're at the point, the breaking point. The Beaver Dam is breaking, people. Okay? Anyway, I think I've talked enough. Okay, God bless. Have a good day.